Welcome back to Miniature Game Montage. I'm Jimmy. Today we'll be painting up our first model for the Court of the Seven Headed Serpent, a Hunter of the Left-Hand Path. Alright, this miniature is truly gruesome, and I find that awesome. So if you're an average Joe painter like me, you may find this painting guide useful. I'm certainly not an artist, nor do I claim to be. My goal in making these videos is to help you get your miniatures on the table, painted up to a nice tabletop standard, something you're proud of, and get to playing games. I start with a black primer, and then I come through with a zenithal highlight of white. This can be achieved several ways, either through a rattle can, an airbrush, or you can dry brush white on as well. The first thing that we're going to tackle is the armor, and instead of going with a silver, I went with this new color that I picked up today called Death Metal. This is a metallic from the Warpaints Fanatics range by the Army Painter. This paint goes on really smooth in just one coat, and it has a bit of a gold tint to it, which I really like. I'm going to turn this a bit silver towards the end, but I figured this would be a great base coat. I really just wanted to try this new paint out. When painting metallics, you do want to pick a brush that you kind of use for metallics and stick to that brush. That's because the metal flakes in the metallic paint will get into the bristles, and it really does a lot of work on your brush. So whatever brush that you paint metallics with, kind of stick to that brush and use your nicer brushes for the rest of the paints. So there's a few metallic areas that we're going to get here on the chest as well as the legs, and that's pretty much it for this miniature. You can see the end result here, and I'm really glad that I used this paint just to test it out. The next paint that we'll go to is going to be the Army Painter. It's a speed paint Hive Dweller Purple. And whatever this guy is wearing, intestines or guts, it has eyeballs in it. Just such a cool miniature. I know I wanted to start it out pretty dark, so I went in with Hive Dweller Purple and a large brush, and we're just kind of pulling that around, pushing it around the miniature. We will do this just on this inside bit. I'll also work this into the arm that is connected to the bow. You can kind of see his hand sticking from the top. Absolutely cool what's going on here. So we're going to kind of merge these with some different colors as we go on, but I figured this nice dark purple would be a great place to start. Now, if you've never watched my painting videos before, they aren't going to be perfect, and I'm not going to paint up several models to make them perfect and then put out that video on YouTube. I'm painting for the average Joe, so you're going to see me make mistakes and then attempt to clean them up. You may see things change. I think that's a cool part that needs to be shared more on YouTube, and that's why I'm doing it. And when complete, he's looking something like this. Our next paint will be to get the silver bits. I'll be using plate mail metal to get the chain on the front, the weapon that he is wearing, and any of these little strange things that are dangling from his waist. Be sure you switch brushes again to use your metallics, and when finished, switch back. When complete, your model should look something like this, and now we're going to go over to whatever he is wearing on the outside. From the artwork, it is a skin type of color, so we're going to use a speed paint here, Crusader Skin, and you can go in pretty heavy with this. This is going to give us a nice skin tone, a good dark skin tone, and something that will look nice to highlight up from. Now, using speed paint does take a little getting used to. You have to work pretty quickly moving it around unless you add in some speed paint medium to help it stay wet a little longer. Speed paint really shines on a surface like this, however, and you can tell as the paint runs into the recesses, staining it down, and then leaving a lighter color, some of that white shining through on the top. Now, I recently saw a video by Squidmar Miniatures where Emil and Lucas were discussing how speed paint can limit your ability to grow as a painter, and I wholeheartedly disagree. When using speed paint, it really lets me see the highlights and where the highlights should go. As someone that is a bit more artistically challenged, I have a very tough time knowing where the shadows should go and knowing where highlights should go, but using speed paint really allows me to see what areas can take a bigger highlight, and it really does help me out. It has helped me grow as a painter tremendously. Now, to an extent, I can understand if you are a competition painter, but there are some artists out there that are taking speed paint to a new level, and if you haven't seen videos by Don Cerratos yet, I think he does a fantastic job kind of elevating what that normal speed paint job can be. Alright, our model is starting to come together. We are going to go with the Army Painter's Pallid Bone, and this will be to get some of the bone things that he has showing, some of the spikes, the skull on the back. Again, you can be pretty liberal with this paint as well. Just put it on, drag it around, let it flow into the recesses. The next speed paint we will grab is going to be hardened leather, and I will use this to get the top of the bow that he's wearing. He also has a few nails in him, and I'm going to make these wood as well. It's going to be pretty tough to see after we blend this all in, but I figured it would be just a good transition to have. And when complete, I go back onto my palette, I do get his feet, I get the little silver areas that I may have spilled some other paint onto. I just kind of do a general cleanup. We've kind of completed all of our base coats at this step, so at this time you just want to clean everything up and we'll get ready for the next phase. Now, depending on how much speed paint you put on, you may need to give that some time to dry. It is relatively quick drying, but the next color that we will grab is going to be Gravelord Gray. And I'm going to use this similar to a shade or a wash. So any of the areas that we made silver previously, I'll go over that with Gravelord Gray to really kind of tone and darken that down. I do prefer Gravelord Gray to a lot of the new recipes for washes and shades now, because it really does tint everything down, kind of like the old washes used to. Next up, I'm going to grab the Warpaints Fanatics Matte White, and this is where I've watched some of Don's video, and I figured I'm going to try it. He does what he calls kind of like a double slap chop plus kind of a method, where he will apply speed paint, and then go through with white and give it a dry brush, and then add in some more colors. So we're going to try that today. So I do want to lighten up the purple that we put in. As I said, that was kind of like that dark base color, but I wanted to try to go in and lighten that up some. So we are going to use that matte white on this, and I am also going to use it onto the outside, those flesh colors as well, because I got a few new paints at the store. I want to just try this out and see how it works. Now, if you're brand new, a dry brush is where you're going to get paint on your brush and then wipe a majority off on a paper towel, and then go in with a light hand and kind of be sure that you're connecting with those higher points on the miniature. Dry brushing is one of those skills that you should learn, especially if you're a new painter. It can really help you with highlights, and it can also be a very strong tool. You can check out Artist Opus if you want to see some pretty awesome dry brushing tutorials. But okay, we got that done. Let's go in with the Speed Paint Purple Alchemy, which is going to be a lighter purple, almost coming to a pink. And we're going to go in, and I'm just going to put that over where we put the Hive Dweller purple, trying to focus more on the areas that has the white dry brush. And you can see the effect that I'm attempting to go for, which is to go from that kind of darker Hive Dweller purple and in the recesses, and then moving to this lighter color on the top. And this is my first time trying this technique, and that's a lot of what this channel is about, especially when it comes to my painting guides. And you can see what the finished result is like here, and I'm pretty pleased with it. I did go in and blend in some of that top piece of the bow where we had that hardened leather, making it just really kind of gory, for lack of better terms. This is the end result, and I would encourage you to try out different colors and just see how things go. Remember, there's no wrong way to do things. Don't let anybody tell you how to paint. The next paint that I grab is the Speed Paint Peachy Flesh, and this was one that I got at the store today. And I got to admit, I kind of liked the way that things looked just with the Crusader skin. To me, it looks a lot more real, I went over with this peachy flesh and it certainly brightened up things, and that is something that I will go in and fix later. I don't know which you prefer. You can see the two, one on the left, one on the right, and I just preferred that Crusader skin look. That's okay, we'll go in and fix that a little later. Honestly, as I get towards the end though, I'm kind of happy with both of them. We'll go through and add a little dry brush on this to lighten it back up, but it definitely has a lot of variation. I'm just so impressed with what the speed paints are capable of in such a short period of time. With that complete, I do grab that matte white that is still on my palette. I go through and get some of these eyeballs that are poking out on, again, whatever he's wearing. Up next, I want to provide some highlights to the armor and to the metal bits that he's wearing. I still have plate mail metal on my palette. I grabbed that and I'm going to go in with a dry brush here. And I probably went in a bit too heavy on the armor. And when you're doing a dry brush, you typically want to go up and down, side to side, round and round, catching all of the raised areas. I pressed in pretty hard. A lot of it has to do with the pressure that you apply as well. And I probably turned this a little more silver than I'd wanted to, but that's okay. I was happy with the end result. The next paint up is going to be the Army Painter Blood Red. This is another speed paint. We're going to go through and get kind of the inside where those intestines are, as well as some areas where the bow is protruding from his arm or from his shoulder. I did not cover the entire surface in this color. I just went through kind of selectively adding in some of this blood red where I thought it would make sense, you know, on some raised areas to where it would really show, and then just kind of blending that in with those darker purple colors. There's no rhyme or reason, or right or wrong. Just go through and have fun with it. It looks really cool, this effect that I'm seeing take place, and it looks like that this bow has just freshly popped out of his shoulder, which is really cool. Up next, we're going to go with the Warpaints Fanatics Pale Sand. This is a very light sand color. I'm going to go through with another dry brush on this to give some highlights to these kind of skin tones that he has. So again, wipe the majority of the paint off on a paper towel, and then you can go through and just give a dry brush. This is going to catch the raised areas and some of the flatter raised areas and just really give a lot of definition between those high points and the dark paint in the recesses. The next paint we will grab, we're going to work on some highlights. I'm going to grab the Warpaints Fanatics Blood Chalice, and we're just going to go over some of the raised areas to make those pop a little bit on the inside where we've put kind of all of those purple, red, bloody type colors, and we're going to pick up some of the highest raised areas where your eyes would be drawn, and I'm just going to give them a highlight of this light red. You do want to use a thinner brush here, and some of the keys to getting these nice lines is when you get the paint on the brush, kind of rub off on a paper towel very quickly and go in with a bit of a drier brush. If you have a lot of water on the brush, then it will run off and go right into the recesses, which is what we want to avoid here. So just going through, picking out some of the raised areas where your eyes would be drawn and giving those some nice highlights. The next thing we'll do is give a quick highlight using the Army Painter Skeleton Bone. I will get the skull that he has on his back, as well as some of these bones that are protruding from his body, and this really just takes no time at all. Try to stay out of the recesses, just give a very quick highlight to these areas. I did see where he's got a little skull on the front, so I went ahead and just gave that a quick highlight with this color as well. It'll be kind of tough to tell once we get done with a future highlight step. I do a quick tidy up here using Pallid Bone to get into the eyes, which we previously painted white, and then you can use this time to just kind of go over and make sure that you've got everything colored in where you want it. At this point, I'm really liking the miniature that I've painted, and the next step I'm going to tackle the base. I'm going to use a speed paint Occultist Cloak. This is a new one that I got at the store, so I just wanted to try it out. You'll get to see what that looks like on a base. And for these guys, I wanted to put them on dark bases, almost like ashes that they're going to be walking on. So you can be pretty heavy with this, just cover the base. If you use the Zenithal, if you put the base on previously, I did use a mud texture, But if you did the base previously prior to painting, you'll have a nice zenithal highlight on it, and this paint will take very nicely to that. Up next, we'll grab the Army Painter's Matte Black. I'm going to use this to get the base, and depending on how you like your bases, I do some in brown, I do some in black. You just want to be sure that you do them. I do see a lot of painted miniatures where people omit the base, and it takes no time at all to go around and do this, so I highly recommend it. Now at this point, you will want to apply any varnish that you want to the miniature to protect the painting. I did want his cloak, for a lack of better terms, to have some shine to it, so I went through with a gloss varnish. This is something that I rarely use. I've actually never used this in any of my painting videos, but I did want this to have shine to it, so I went around, gave this a gloss varnish to achieve just that. I did want the inside to have a similar look as well after thinking about it, so I did go through and give a little bit of gloss varnish to the inside of that cloak as well. And to me, that gloss varnish really kind of helps this pop a little bit. It feels a little more real. I do grab blood red from the Army Painter. I go through and give a quick pen wash to some of these areas that have some red on them. Just in looking at the artwork, he seems to have this kind of red glow or blood coming from the inside, and I thought this would be a good way to achieve that effect. Now when finished, he's looking like this. I'm really pleased with it, and I want to take it just one step further. I very rarely use technical style paints, but I do grab True Blood from the Army Painter. This is a blood paint. Again, rarely use this stuff, but for me, it just makes so much sense on the Trench Crusade models. These models are so gory and they have so much showing. I just want to go through and just give it that kind of effect. So I'll apply some coming out of his arm here. I'll also get some kind of coming down his face and on his weapon, and to me it just really helps bring the model fully together. To finish, I gently tap on some orange and some reds onto the base to be like ash and embers that are burning, and with that, our Hunter of the Left Hand path is complete. Now overall, this miniature took approximately 40 minutes to paint, which is a little more than I typically spend. But again, I was trying out a lot of new things, new techniques, new paints, and sharing them with you today. If you like the way this looks, it will be relatively easy to replicate, and I do highly recommend experimenting with a lot of different colors. These miniatures are fantastic. Really looking forward to seeing the Court of the Seven Headed Serpent on the table soon. Well, hey, thank you so much for watching this painting video. Supporters Club, your names are on the screen now. That's by no means necessary. If you've watched the channel this far, you've done more than enough to support us, so thank you so much. We will see you in the next one. Take care.